Hello, everybody. We are starting a brand new book. We are starting the book Captivate by Vanessa Van Edwards, right? This was our speaker from Jubilee. So if you attended Jubilee, this is her book. So it goes into more detail on some of the things that she talked about in her talk at Jubilee. So Jenny is going to get us started. Oh, and I do highly recommend, a lot of times we say, you don't need the book. I do recommend getting this book. It does have some visuals in there as well as some quizzes that you can take to help you better connect and understand the people that you're working with, as well as understanding yourself. So I do recommend getting this book, or also going to her website. I'm sure she probably has some resources and stuff there. And I don't know what her website is, but I'm sure she has one. So I would just Google the book and her name, and you might find some resources there as well. All right, so Jenny, you're gonna get us started here?
Absolutely. Okay, starts out with the first 5 minutes. Whether you're going to a housewarming party, networking event, or first date, you face the same initial challenges. How do I make a good first impression? Who should I talk to? What should I say? Part 1 is all about the first 5 minutes of an interaction. How can you use your first impression, conversation starters, and introduction to get to know someone? The first 5 hacks are all about tapping into what intrigues people so you can be the most memorable person in the room. Sounds like a plan. Okay, control, how to win the social game. Once upon a time, a boy named Harry was teased for wearing thick glasses and having a bookish streak. When the time came to apply to college, he took jobs as a timekeeper in a railroad construction company and as a shelf duster in a pharmacy to support his family. No one would have guessed that this shy boy would one day become the 33rd president of the United States. The story of Harry S. Truman is surprising because he doesn't fit the stereotypical booming presidential personality. On July 19, 1944, this posed a problem. Truman was facing the biggest opportunity of his career. He was vying for the vice presidential nomination at the Democratic National Convention. Odds were not in his favor. Then, President Franklin D. Roosevelt had already publicly supported his contender, Henry Wallace, a gifted public speaker and the current vice president. Truman was not a gifted public speaker, and he knew it. His team had to draw the battle off the main stage to make the convention work to Truman's strength. One-on-one rapport building. All day, they pulled delegates into a private, air-conditioned room underneath the platform called Room H. The convention hall was stiflingly hot, so delegates literally breathed a breath of fresh air as they listened to Truman's pitch and began to cool off. Then he spent hours standing at the end of the hallway, shaking hands with passing members. Instead of waiting for the results in his hotel room, which is what Henry Wallace and most of the candidates tended to do, Truman ordered a hot dog and sat with his wife in the audience. In the first ballot, Wallace had 429.5 votes. Truman received 319.5. The second ballot was called immediately. Truman had to win friends, and he had to win them fast. Instead of making a grand speech, Truman and his team kicked into full gear, working party leaders, delegates, and influential members of the crowd one by one. He worked a solid connection with the right person and then let them convince their people for him. At 8:14, the results were announced. Truman led with 1,031 votes to Wallace's 105. He had gained 712 votes in a matter of hours. A few minutes later, Truman gave one of the shortest acceptance speeches in history. He stood patiently at the bank of microphones, and when audience had finally quieted down, he said, "Now, give me a chance." Truman understood his strengths and played to them. He optimized his interactions for success, and so can you. The science of fake. Imagine it's your dream to play professional basketball. You're fast, you have great ball handling skills. You also happen to be 6 feet 2 inches tall. You have 2 choices. You could play center, but the average height of an NBA center is 6 feet 11 inches. If you went for center, you would have to fake your height by wearing lifts during games and spending a ton of extra hours after practice working on your vertical jump. Or you could play point guard, where the average height is 6 feet 2 inches. You wouldn't have to make up for extra inches with your jump. You could just focus on playing. Feigning extroversion is like trying to play center with lifts on. Trying to socially fake it until you make it burns a whole lot of extra energy and doesn't really work. It also comes across as inauthentic. In a Science of People survey, we asked 1,036 of our readers the following questions. Which of these people habits annoy you the most? People who are too talkative, people who are too quiet, people who are fake, people who show off. Can you guess which one won? C, people who are fake, led the board by far with 63%. D, people who show off, was a distant second, 22%. Fake doesn't just happen when you're trying to be something you're not. If you don't like someone, they will feel it. If you're unhappy at an event, people will sense it. Pushing through, faking it, and trying to make it work simply doesn't work. Dr. Barbara Wild and her associates found that our emotions are infectious. First, her team showed people pictures of happy or sad faces. Then they gave them a series of mood tests. They found they could infect participants with the emotions in each image. Very simply, after viewing a happy face, participants felt more positive. After viewing a sad face, participants felt more negative. Here's what's crazy. They only flashed each image for 500 milliseconds. Only 500 milliseconds is barely enough time for participants to even register they have seen a face, but they still caught the emotion. Dr. Wild even found that our smile muscles unconsciously tend to mimic the smiles around us. We're happier around happy individuals, and we thrive with thriving people. When you force yourself to go to events you're dreading, you're not only miserable, but your misery is contagious. Think you can just fake it till you make it? Think again. We can spot a fake smile a mile away. Over 4,361 people have taken our virtual body language quiz to test their nonverbal intelligence. In one question, we show participants a genuine smile hidden among 3 fake smiles. Over 86.9% of participants are correctly able to pick out the genuine smile. Researchers at the University of Finland showed one group images of fake smiles and another group images of real smiles, like this. Can you guess which smile is real and which smile is fake? Image A shows a fake smile, and image B shows a genuine smile. When participants look at the real smiles, they felt a positive mood change, but when they looked at the fake smiles, their mood remained the same. For more of how you can tell the difference, turn to chapter 6, but don't do that right now. Faking it until you make it is not worth the effort. Happy people make us happy, but fake people, they're forgettable. The first step in winning the social game is to control the situations you play in. Only interact in places where you don't have to fake it. No matter how many behavior hacks you learn, if you go to events that make you unhappy, it will be incredibly difficult to increase your memorability. When you feel great, other people pick up on it and want in on it. When you drag yourself to an event because you feel like you should make an appearance, you're the party pooper and you smell up the event. This is why you need to have a social game plan. Confidence is contagious, and so is lack of confidence, and a customer will recognize both. Vince Lombardi. Your social game plan. Here's the worst piece of advice I was ever given. Say yes to everything. Say yes to networking events, coffee with strangers, random conferences, because you never know what opportunity might come your way. As the science shows, this is a big smelly sack of baloney. Unfortunately, it took me years to figure this out. When I first started my blog, I was trying to find any paid writing gig I possibly could. So almost every weeknight, I trudged out to the professional circuit. I prepared for these networking events like I was going into battle, loading up on fat stacks of business cards, fistfuls of no-nonsense pens, and multiple personalized name tags. My uniform consisted of sensible shoes, casual professional attire, perfume, and a news anchor smile. I fought for attention, for business, for a break from the intermittent boredom of having the same conversation over and over again. After 3 years of this nonsense, and at least 10 pounds from eating so many platters of pigs in a blanket, I threw in the towel. I wasn't making any real connections, I wasn't drumming up business, and I certainly wasn't having a good time. Why? I wasn't working to my strengths. Like Truman, I do much better in one-on-one situations. I get overwhelmed by loud rooms with lots of people. Trying to cover up my anxiety with fake smiles just made me come across as inauthentic, and that's the problem. What I needed was a game plan. Hack number 1, the social game plan. Take control of your interactions and play by your social rules. Who says you have to play by other people's rules? Not me. I want you to create your own. Your social game plan will help you find the position that's perfect for you, where you play your best, feel the most comfortable, and are set up for the greatest success. Skill 1, play your position. Most people's skills book try to force you into one approach, the bubbly extrovert. They want you to fake it till you make it. They expect you to be on all the time with everyone you meet. This is impossible. You can get along with anyone, but you don't have to get along with everyone. The social game plan isn't just about mapping out your strategies, it's also about leveraging your social strengths. Athletes aren't expected to play every position on a team, and you shouldn't try and engage in every social role. Play to your position. This will also make it easier to try all of the hacks you've learned. At our human behavior lab, the Thrive test, ask participants about their favorite places to socialize. Before seeing the results, fill out your answers below. Okay, and then there's a whole list of where you of where you enjoy spending time, and then there's a list of where you dislike spending time. None.
They have things on here like festivals, bars, nightclubs, restaurants, cafes, boardrooms, the gym. Like they have just like a variety of places.
Yeah. So can you guess which answer was the most popular? Trick question. There weren't any clear winners. We couldn't find a statistically significant pattern because the answers were evenly split. Everyone thrives in different scenarios. This is why it's hard trying to learn how to work a party if you don't actually like parties. It's silly trying to learn how to charm people at a conference if conferences make your skin crawl. That's like saying a quarterback should also be able to play as a kicker and a linebacker. Maybe he could, but it wouldn't make for a very successful game. Let's identify the positions where you thrive and the ones where you merely survive. Thrive. Look at the first set of places you checked off in the exercise. Put the top 3 to 5 under My Thrive locations below. These are the places you should look forward to going and where you are your best self. Neutral. Certain social situations could go either way depending on your mood or who's there. They aren't your favorite, but you don't dread them. Look at the places that you didn't check off in either exercise and add that to the encounter under My Most Neutral locations. And survive. Other places or scenarios always make you feel uncomfortable, bored, or unhappy. Take 3 to 5 of those places you checked off and write them down under I survived these locations. Now you know which invites to say yes to and which ones to skip. Put yourself in a position to be successful before you even arrive. You're much more likely to triumph with each of the behavior hacks if you try them at your Thrive locations. And if you have to go to a neutral or survival event, no worries. The next 2 skills have you covered. Skill 2, work a room. Before you go to an event, imagine drawing your social interaction on a map. From the door you enter through to the location of your first conversation to the location of your last. Many of us follow the same path over and over again without even realizing it. At the Science of People, we partner with event organizers who let us film and track people's movements through the venues. At each event, we assign every attendee a number and then observe his or her interaction patterns. At the end of the night, we count how many connections they made, ask them how many business cards they received, and look at their connections on LinkedIn. We have found that the most successful connectors use specific patterns. In other words, the social map can be hacked. Here's a map of a typical social event. It just shows where everybody's walking through. Yeah. Whether you're at a networking event, holiday party, wedding, dinner at a friend's house, or a conference ballroom, most events have this basic setup. There's a check-in area or a table to drop off gifts. You can easily spot the bathroom and the bar or food area. There's usually a few people you recognize, maybe colleagues, friends, or acquaintances gathered and already catching up. And of course, the host or boss is milling around the room. Let's reimagine Truman's social map at the 1944 convention. An audience sat before a big stage. Private meeting rooms were in the back. Most of the candidates devoted their energy to getting on stage before roaming through the audience to do obligatory schmoozing. Their map looked like this. To be effective and win votes, the shy Truman had to avoid both the typically traversed path and his own personal traps. The X's mark potential traps. Truman did his networking at the end of a long hallway on the side of the stage and in the privacy of room H. I call locations that work to our strengths social sweet spots. On the next map, a star marks the sweet spot. All Truman had to do was follow his sweet spots to work the room in his favor. I want you to do the same thing. Let's revisit the typical social map. I split every event into 3 basic zones: the start zone, the social zone, and the side zone. The start zone is the starting point at all events. Emotionally, it's the place where nerves are running highest. When people have just arrived, they're usually juggling lots of thoughts. They're running late, checking in, taking off coats, surveying the room, seeing if they know anyone, worrying about first impressions, silencing their phones, running to the bathroom, and praying for a good time. The biggest mistake I see at events is when people hover at the boundary of the start zone. It's a social trap. You're catching people at a confidence low. We noticed that the people who collected the least amount of business cards tried to pounce on people right in the start zone. What they didn't realize was that they were trying to connect with people who weren't open to connection yet. When you approach someone before they get oriented to an event, they're not only more distracted during your conversations, but they'll also be looking over your head to scope out the room and find people they know. You'll have a much harder time engaging in eye contact. They're also more likely to excuse themselves to get their drink, grab some food, say hi to the host, or go to the bathroom, and less likely to be receptive to anything you have to say. The side zone is also filled with secret traps that people often fall into. I call it the side zone because we notice that when people fall into these traps, they become sidelined and don't get to meet many new people. The first trap in the side zone is an easy one to remember: the bathroom. Go to the bathroom, but don't hover outside it. It's creepy. The second side zone trap is making a beeline for the food and then floating around it all night. This isn't a horrible trap, but it isn't a good place to plant yourself. Not only will you eat too much and contend with a food baby all night, but you will also make it hard for other people to get their food and eat. It's difficult to strike up conversations when people are trying to load up plates, almost impossible to shake hands, and makes for awkward chatting while chewing moments. The third side zone trap is immediately going to people you know. Once you join up with your colleagues, friends, or acquaintances, it's incredibly challenging to get out and meet new people. The best thing to do is wave or give your friends a quick hug when you arrive and then say you'll circle back to them. You can hang out with them as the crowd thins out, but capitalize on your fresh energy at the beginning of event to hit the social zone. The social zone is where the magic happens. First, the best place to start working a room is right where people exit the bar. By the time they're here, the emotional high anxiety feeling of the smart zone will have died down. Drinks in hand, people are ready to mingle, if not desperate to have someone to talk to. You become their savior if you rescue them from drinking alone. There are two sweet spots on either end of the bar. At our networking events, we noticed the people who collected the most business cards and had the most connections on LinkedIn dominated these sweet spots and never ran out of people to talk to. Your opening line can be contextual. How do you like the wine tonight? Or, hey, cheers, I'm Vanessa. The other great sweet spot in the social zone is right near the host. Once you have your drink, you can continue to work the room by saying a brief hello and thank you to the host. You can also ask them to introduce you around before they carry on greeting people. You can say, thank you so much for having me. This looks like a great group. Anyone here I should meet? After they've introduced you, let them do their hosting duties, but if possible, stay in their line of sight. I do this when I don't know many people because the host is more likely to see me while I'm talking to someone and say, hey, you should meet my friend Vanessa. Vanessa, come over here. Score. While I don't recommend standing around the food, hidden sweet spots are at the couches or bar tables where people are already eating. They're often hoping for someone like you to set their plate down beside theirs. Something like, hey, can I join you while you eat? Works well. Bonus, if you're an introvert and don't like big groups, I highly recommend being what I call a grazer. Instead of hitting the buffet once for a heaping plate, go up first for appetizers, again for a main course, and then again for seconds or desserts. Why? This is an easy way to take a break from conversation or move to a new one. I'm a grazer myself. If I need a longer break, I go to the bathroom and refill my drink too. Conserving my social energy helps me have multiple quality conversations in one night. In summary, work a room by hitting your social sweet spots and avoiding common traps. This map will help you optimize meeting people at events. Don't take my word for it. Next time you're at an event, pretend you're on our Science of People observation team. You'll notice people moving in and out of traps and sweet spots. Approach me. I just gotten my food. I'm close to the host. I have a fresh drink in my hand. Avoid me. I'm only talking to people I know. I just got here. Where's the bathroom? Maybe you'll find even deadlier traps or even smarter sweet spots, and you can always redraw your social map based on your skills and goals. I strongly recommend it. Skill 3, know your team. About 2 weeks after an online body language course I taught went viral. I'm going to read that again. About 2 weeks after an online body language course I taught went viral, I got a random email from a guy who wanted to give me some unsolicited advice. He told me, in not very nice words, that he thought I should wear a business suit in my videos. In most of my videos, I wear a button down or a dress. He said I didn't look professional enough and business wear would appeal to more students. He also advised against using jokes as they distract from the message. I panicked. I immediately began to think about reshooting my videos to look more formal. Should I start from scratch? I try to edit clips out piece by piece. Devastated, I asked some mentors for advice. Right after I told them the story, one of my mentors asked me, Vanessa, why are you listening to this guy? Is he one of your people? I had no idea what he meant by my people. He explained, your goal was not to reach every person, it's to reach the right people. If this guy gets distracted by what you're wearing, he's not one of the right people. This was a turning point for me in my business. I began to define my ideal student very specifically. Surveys and interviews told me that the people who bought my courses are above average in all areas. They're high performers with above average intelligence and a super busy schedule. My goal is simply to help as many of them as possible. Instead of going after every type of student, I started to target in on my type of student. With this ideal customer in mind, I began to create short, digestible videos, power packed with actionable tips. If a video wasn't supercharged with valuable intel or was too wordy, I didn't post it. Within a few months, our business started snowballing. Our YouTube channel views ballooned to over 9 million. Our Twitter following grew by a factor of 12. As of this writing, we have over 132,000 students in our online courses and over 104,000 in our online community. This only worked because I knew exactly who I was looking for. I had found my people. Whether you're trying to find ideal clients, a great partner, or friends who bring out your best self, you have to make sure you're with the right people. You can take the Superman approach, stealthily preventing awkwardness and optimizing your interactions on your own, or you can partner up. Batman has Robin, Iron Man has Jarvis, and Bert has Ernie. Better yet, you could join the Avengers and have a team to support you. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. My question for you is, who are you people? You can accelerate your learning pace by drawing from the strength of others. We all need supporters in our lives. So let's take stock of who's on your team. Read the following prompts and write down the person who pops into your head for each. I'm going to read these. Just you can think about them if you're not going to write them down. Who do you love spending time with? Who makes you laugh? Who makes you feel valued? Who do you go to when you need to strategize? Who do you most look forward to seeing? Who do you call in a crisis? Who makes you feel like your best self? Who do you wish you could get to know better? Take a moment and look at your answers. Identify the following people. Your winger. Did anyone come up more than once? Is there someone who could join you on a social adventure, who could help you be more comfortable as you try out social hacks, and who shares your desire for growth? I call this person your winger, a gender neutral form of wingman or wingwoman. Write their name here. Your riser. Is there someone you wish was on this list? We all have people in our lives with whom we want to improve our connections. Maybe an office colleague, a new friend, or a potential business contact who could be a career game changer. Use the 14 behavior hacks with your riser to level up your relationship. Knowing what scenarios you thrive in, what positions you're most comfortable in, and what teammates you trust in will save you both energy and time. Use your Thrive list to help you make social decisions that serve you. Reach out and rely on the people who truly support you and make you feel valued. Bottom line, you do not have to like everyone. It takes far more work to get along with people or try new behavior hacks in a location that makes you nervous or uncomfortable. By controlling where, how, and with whom your interactions take place, you can set yourself up for more success. I started to say no. I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that. I'm not taking that picture. I'm not going to that event. I'm not standing by that because that's not what I want to stand for. And slowly but surely, I remembered who I am. And then you go home and you look in the mirror and you're like, yes, I can go to bed with you every night because that person, I know that person. That person has balls and that person has integrity. That person has an opinion. That's a quote from Lady Gaga. Taking control. Whether you're quiet, contemplative, conversationalist, or a wild, silly party animal, you can succeed by playing to your strength. When Truman was an unknown senator, for instance, he came up with an ingenious plan for climbing the ladder. The obvious strategy was to speak out on the Senate floor, but Truman preferred research to rhetorical flourishes, so he played the cards he had. He wrote in his memoirs, sitting as a hearing committee is a dull, boresome procedure, and it requires patience and persistence. So I soon became the patient and persistent member of the subcommittee. His social game plan was two-pronged. First, he threw himself into researching a topic he knew well from his experience on the railroad, transportation. Then he spent hours in the Library of Congress learning every arcane detail. Second, he built a relationship with a person with a similar interest and goals. His riser was Senator Burton K. Wheeler, the chairman of the Interstate Commerce Committee at the time. As Truman showed off his transportation knowledge in committees, he began to level up his relationship with Senator Wheeler. Finally, after Truman dutifully attended many meetings, Wheeler made Truman a formal subcommittee member. Not long after, Wheeler promoted him to vice chairman of the committee. Other senators noticed his work ethic and unique approach for dealing with people, and it carried him all the way to the White House. Even though Truman might not have been the most traditionally charismatic of individuals, he optimized his skills, mapped out his goals, and worked with the right people. Succeeding with people is about engineering what works for you. So here's your challenges. Say no to an event that you're dreading. At your next event, use the social game plan to find at least 2 sweet spots. Identify the person you want to level up, your riser. Keep them in mind when you apply the next 13 hacks. Bonus, reach out to a potential winger about joining your social adventure. Get them this book and invite them to be on your superhero team. Chapter review. There is no one definition of charisma. There are many flavors of social influence, and that's a good thing. The world would be incredibly boring and loud if everyone were an extrovert. We need you. Use your social game plan. Show up on your terms and interact with people who matter to you. Your confidence is contagious. Stop forcing yourself to socialize in ways that drain you. Go where you thrive and avoid where you survive. Say no so you have the energy to say yes. What is your biggest takeaway from this chapter?
Okay, so, okay, I love the quote from Lady Gaga. I thought that was awesome. Like, what a great thing to say. I love the mapping of the social zones and stuff. Yes, Lori?
What was the quote by Lady Gaga? Can you read it again?
Do you want me to read it? It says,
yeah, go ahead and read that again.
I started to say no. No, I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that. I'm not taking that picture. I'm not going to that event. I'm not standing up for that because that's not what I stand for. And slowly but surely, I remembered who I am. And then you go home and you look in the mirror and you're like, yes, I can go to bed with you every night because that person I know, because that person I know, that person has balls, that person has integrity, that person has an opinion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. I did, like I said, I like the social mapping, just kind of like strategically looking at a room. You know, when you find yourself in a room, I mean, we're not really there right now. And so it got me thinking when it talked about they were saying our challenges at the next event, use your social game plan to find at least 2 sweet spots, right? So I was thinking about that virtually, right? How many of you, like when you are on a call, especially like a regional call, and for me, it's more of a regional call because I know champions, I mean, I'm not going to, I do reach out to other directors to tell them good job or whatever. But I know the champions, but when I'm on a regional call and stuff like that, I try to strike up a conversation with somebody on the regional call, not necessarily while we're on the regional call, but afterwards, just saying, hey, wow, good job. Thanks for sharing. I loved it when you said this, and so when you think about this in the virtual world, it might kind of look like that. Because you can't really work a room. If we were at a regional event and we were live in person, I would go up to somebody that I admired what they did or that they, did something, they trained or something like that. And I would go up and, give them an acknowledgement and strike up a conversation. So in the virtual world, I just do it on Messenger, and trying to kind of cultivate and slowly get those relationships to just so that you have that, and so there are some directors in various regions and stuff that I've reached out to enough that, they're like, hey, let's talk, or hey, let's, hey, I want to bounce some ideas off of you because maybe I ask a question. They're like, you know what, I'm not sure what the answer to that is. Let's talk, let's bounce some ideas. And that's kind of how that used to come from going to events like Summit and Jubilee, but now it comes from when we're present on these things and we can reach out to them and say, hey, what's going on or whatever. So for us, I think, everybody here has unit members, right? Just even reaching out to your people that you knew were on the call and being like, hey, it was so great to see your face, or oh, I'm so glad you were on. What did you love? Or is there, how's it going? Is there anything to help you with, and just, kind of that's your working the room. You know what I mean? And because I see when I see people's faces on there, and that's the other thing with the cameras too, is when I remember people that have their cameras on, and I remember people that are in my recognition that I'm seeing on my reports that are coming through. I remember names that I keep seeing over and over as being people putting in sales. That sticks in my head. And if people have their camera on, that sticks in my head. And so I'm like, I remember Candy Connolly, Conway, something, yeah, Connolly. She, like before I even saw her name in any sort of a recognition, I was like, hey, this chick's on every call, because she always had her camera on. And I remember talking to Lori. Lori brought her up. I said, oh, she's on your team. And I was like, tell me about her, because she's on everything and she's engaged. Tell me about her. And so that's kind of, I think, what we can do sort of with this on the virtual side. What do you guys think?
I think one of the other things about working a room,
right,
is like when we get on Zoom, so many times we'll go like, hey, you need to have your cameras on, or who's Galaxy 716 or whatever. But the other night when so many people were on, and like sometimes on the Cliff Climbers call or the leaders call, when people start getting on that have their cameras on, and the directors that are on talk to them specifically, other people will put their cameras on so that somebody will say hello to them. They won't come back on if you go, hey, you don't have your camera on, we need you to have your camera on. They don't want to do that. But
right.
if you're like, Candy, it's so good to see you on here, and Ebony, I saw you and you're doing great, blah, blah, blah. Marsha, who had no intention of putting her camera on, but did put in sales this week, is going to come on so that somebody will go, Marsha, it's good to see you here. And, and it's just, that's kind of like working the room for that, to get them more involved, because they want somebody to say hi to them too. They don't want to be that person standing at the end of the bar with their drink by themselves, not having anybody to talk to.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a great analogy, because that is true. So maybe we start doing that, at the beginning, a few minutes before we start rally, and just do that, because that they do that. You're absolutely right. They turn their cameras on so somebody will see them.
Sometimes people turn their cameras on just before rally and not during rally. Like they'll turn them on to say hi when they come on, and then they'll turn them off
to fold laundry while it's
right.
Well, I think this is kind of along the same lines, but a little different. But like, if there's like when a challenge is ending, like one of Pam's challenges, like whatever it might be on a Wednesday, if I take the time and I put out what everyone on my team has put in sales wise on that day, people see it. And then they're like, oh man, I didn't earn that. And they put sales in 9 times out of 10, especially if they want it. And they, but I feel like when they see that other people are earning it and they see where they're at, one or two or three people always put sales in so they can achieve it too. So, it's kind of like a FOMO thing, but
especially
virtually same thing.
Yeah. Especially if they're kind of close and they didn't really realize it. Like,
right. But that's like kind of working your team, working the room virtually, because you can't do that in person, but I loved what she said about working the room, because like, I know we're all virtual, but like my chamber here in Stowe, they're back to like, their speed,
networking.
Networking. They're back to luncheons. They're back to that kind of thing. And we're all doing events, right? The fall's here. We're doing events. So you can use what she said when you're at events and you're talking to people. So I think it's great and it's relevant,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I like this one. I like this.
It's good.
Good job, Ellen. There you go.
After we're so indecisive for a couple of weeks, like, should we do this? Should we do this? Should we do this? And then at the last minute, it's like, hey, what about this one, guys? It's like
I now own all kinds of books that I probably won't ever read, but
Well, I didn't get a chance to go back and watch this recording for Jubilee, but we did see it live, and I really liked it when we saw it live. But
Yeah.
I just didn't get a chance to get back and listen, so it'll be good.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, this was good. I think this is a good start. I'm excited about this book. I think